Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Jeff Malin. With me is Mark Souza. We have stuff to talk about in the offseason world of baseball. We got Bryce Harper visiting the Philadelphia Phillies recently, as well as today we have Manny Machado visiting the Yankees. We'll talk about that, as well as what the odd makers say are the most logical spots there each of them are going to go, and what benefit they will have on the teams that are favored to go to, as well as Matt Harvey signing with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, California. Like, that is our running joke, isn't it?
Of California, of the United States,
of planet Earth,
North America.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have some news bits and pieces. We even have some things with the Cubs and maybe them relocating at one point during their beef with the mayor not too long ago. Mm-hmm. Which is actually really interesting, to be honest, because I can't imagine them outside of Chicago. But I digress. Let's go right into it. The first thing first, Manny Machado is visiting the New York Yankees today. And this is probably the place he ends up going. The odd makers have him as the favorites to go to the Yankees at minus 140. And the next is actually the Phillies at plus 185.
Don't do it. Don't do it, New York.
Don't do it?
Don't do it.
Okay, now you're interesting me. Why not?
Because they do not need any help on the offensive side of the ball. They need pitching, and I get it. Mm-hmm. There's not too much out there.
Well, they did sign a pitcher recently.
They did. They signed James Paxton. I know. But they still need, I don't know. I don't see the issue with I don't see what Machado really adds to them. They're an offensive juggernaut. They're
true.
I mean,
Machado is a star. That's why.
I guess.
And of course, Stan has had a struggling career with the Yankees so far. I know he's had some pretty good. He's had a statistically good, but when he's off, he's off. You know what I mean? He just doesn't find any answers when he's not feeling it. And Machado is consistently a good player. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I say maybe that's why they're looking at him. And also, Machado is just, like we said, he's one of the best players in the major leagues right now. And probably the best shortstop.
Yeah. Will he play shortstop if he signs with the Yankees? Or
probably third base. But I can see him. I can see him going to short and moving him to third.
Yeah.
There's a lot of possibilities with this.
Didi Gregorius plays short now.
He probably, would it be smart to move him to second? Or move him to third if they got Machado? Or do you think it would be better if Machado moved from short to another position?
Well, Machado's been playing third, and then he played a lot of short last year because when he went to the Dodgers, they lost Seager. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's a good player, man. He's a really good player. And there'll be days where they can DH him, too. And that's a nice little thing about playing in the American League, right? He doesn't have to play third base or shortstop every single day. So, I mean, I get it. But for me, it's they got Stanton. They got Judge. They got Sanchez. I don't think they need this move. I think they should, and I get it. They have money. There's no salary cap, but I would invest and try and get another big time pitcher. That's what I would do if I was them. But that's just me.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. But okay, let me humor me. What team do you think he'd be perfect to stay on? Do you think he should be staying with the Dodgers, or do you think he should be? Do you think it's smart for him to look somewhere else?
I think it'd be cool if he went to the Phillies, just because The Phillies are an intriguing team because they have some young talent and they have a lot of money to spend. So it's like he could.
The
join
Phillies
there. No,
are
I get it,
favored for Bryce Harper. We'll get on that in the next segment. But
I get it though. Like for him, he probably wants to play in a bigger city, right? He probably wants to play.
Philadelphia is a pretty big city, all things considered.
It's New York. Like,
but
we're talking about New York City.
And do you think money will be the main problem here? The main reason for him to go to the Phillies?
Well, I feel like if it was only has to do with money, then maybe he'd already signed with the Phillies.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this. This is actually an important question. If the Phillies do get Harper and then they get Machado, how does this turn into for the Phillies? Does this make them an immediate contender, or do you think there's still a lot more problems that they need to work on?
I would still have the Braves as the top team in the division, but I think the gap would be considerably closer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think they still need some pitching, and they would boost up their offense, no question about it. But defense aside, they still need some work.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, I just think that there's still a lot to be desired when it comes to the Phillies. I know if they do manage to sign these two, which is actually quite possible. It's not like completely out of the question. This makes them an immediate contender in the eyes of the casual viewer. But does this put them at top of their division right away, do you think? No.
For the Phillies?
Yeah.
No. Braves.
You still think the Braves,
I
with
like
Machado,
the Braves.
even with Machado and Harper, they would
say
still be the
so.
favorites?
I say so. It's who knows, but the Braves for me with that young team.
Oh no, they're going to be good for the next
intriguing.
couple. They're good for the next couple of years, no question about it.
And they just signed Donaldson. If Donaldson can, I know he's been injured and stuff like that, but
well, I mean, yeah, but what are you going to do? I mean, that can only boost your team. It's not going to hurt it. It's not like they're desperate for him. If there was a team that was like desperate for a guy like him, then that's an issue because of his injuries. But since he's just going to add to their team like only positive things, like that's the perfect signing because he's not going to be solely relied on. He's not desperate to be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, but I don't know. Machado visiting the Yankees, he probably will sign there. That is what most people are saying. Which makes total sense, just in the fact that it's the New York Yankees. They can do this type of stuff. But let me ask you, what contract do you think he'll be expecting?
For Machado?
Yeah.
Man. I have no idea. I've heard so many things this offseason, and then
I heard up to $350 million.
Yeah, I've heard anything from $250 to $400. Honestly, I've heard everything, and in between.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what him or Harper will actually get. I really don't. What do you think?
$350 doesn't seem like that much because of the same contracts that are being asked for by Harper. Because even Harper was thinking like $400 million. That's what people were thinking. So all things considered, I can see him getting up to $400 million. But if he goes to the Yankees, I don't think they can afford $400 million. It's not like they don't have the money.
Can, or you don't think they want to?
They don't want to because that's too much. Because that'll be too.
The luxury tax would be insane on
that's that. Where because you'll have Stanton with 300. What is it? 325.
Something
like that. And then you'll have Machado at 4. Let's just use him. Let's use an example. Machado at 400. That's over $250 million for just two players.
Yeah, the luxury tax would be insane on that because it's like every dollar you're over the luxury tax, it's like $4 or something like that, right? So
there'll be millions of dollars over the cap space.
Yeah. So I have no idea, but you think that with the Yankees watching the Red Sox win this year, that it's going to force them into a move like this, to kind of reach further than they would have, maybe in a different year?
You think they're desperate to win a championship again?
I mean, they've just seen their rival win again.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen in the last 15.
And they saw the Red Sox. They even though the Yankees had over 100 wins this season, the Yankees or the Red Sox still did better than them. That's what you're saying. Like that's a big problem.
So yeah, I mean, like, I don't know.
It's always the Red Sox versus Yankees type deal.
But for the last 15 years, the Red Sox have had the upper hand, right?
Yeah.
Like they've
since 2000 since they won in 2004, they've been
had
the one.
The upper hand for 100 years, and then in the 2000s, it's been Boston. Boston's had the upper hand. So,
and even in the 2010s, you can say Boston.
But do you think that with the Yankees having such a good year this year, but still paling in comparison to the Red Sox, which is weird to say, but
the Red Sox arguably have one of the best seasons of all time.
They might. Who'd they lose?
No one. Not anyone. Not anyone that I could think of. That's a big factor.
And like their best players are all young.
But when the record for the most wins in a regular season is 111, and they got 108, that stands as one of the best teams of all time.
I think like for sure they had luck go their way too. Like they didn't suffer any major injury, but like
of course, but
you could see the Red Sox winning 105 games again, right? Like,
yeah. I could totally see it. Absolutely, no question about it.
Because they have a fairly young team. Like they're not like a bunch of older.
Like
vets.
we said, they didn't lose anyone critical.
They
didn't lose anyone at all.
They have the Mookie Betts. They have Ben Attendee, at the top of that.
They have MVP they have MVP like players in more than one position. That's unreal.
Yeah.
And that's not like they bought their team. They developed them in the minor leagues and moved them up, and they did the right trades for other players. They made the perfect team with what they got. Mm-hmm. They didn't go, let's go buy our team like the Yankees do. No, I'm not saying that's the bad decision. I'm just saying that they did it differently than the Yankees did. Mm-hmm. And I'm just saying that the fact is the Red Sox are looking better in the next 5 years than the Yankees are.
You think so?
With this team, if they don't lose anybody, I still think so.
I would agree with that.
Plus, the Red Sox front office just seems to be doing much better than the Yankees front office.
I feel like the Yankees are going to have a couple players who are going to have bloated contracts.
They're overpaying their players.
And like a guy like Stanton, he's been known to get hurt. I know it's like usually freak accidents, but he usually has them, right? I mean, he got hit in the face. He broke his wrist. Like, he's had these, like, random things happen to him.
It is true. I mean, he kind of wasn't he the one that brought in the trade, the fad of putting the face guard over the helmet?
Yeah, because he broke his face, man.
I think
can you imagine that? Break your, like, I know we talk about injuries, but, like, can you
breaking
imagine
your face,
getting hit by a baseball and, like, your face is
looking
broken?
like the Elephant Man? Yeah, I get that. Ever seen that movie, The Elephant Man?
I don't think so.
It's from, like, the 20s and 30s. It's actually a very powerful movie. I actually did it. I watched a documentary on the Elephant Man. It's actually very fascinating. But the thing is, I'm glad that it's almost like it was a blessing in disguise because every player is doing that now, protecting their face. Like that's not happening again. I hate to say it, but sometimes one guy's got to take the bullet for the rest of them.
Ouch.
I'm sorry. It's the truth. No.
No, I mean, yeah, that's usually how things happen. Things change because something bad happens. Like, for example, when they didn't, you know how they made it. So back in the day, baseball used to only have like one baseball. They'd use the whole game or maybe two. Mm-hmm. But the reason why they changed it and the reason why they added lights is because somebody died on the field getting hit by a pitch in like 20. He
got hit in the head, didn't he?
Yeah, and it was because. It wasn't just because, but the baseballs that they were using back then, they'd get dirtied up from being used all game, right? So they'd be all scuffed up, all dark, and they didn't have the proper lighting when the games got a little bit darker, and that's kind of what led to floodlights being used.
Yeah.
But then that brought about change, right? So it usually always takes something terrible to happen.
Yeah, I hate to break it to them.
You remember how the players a couple years ago were flirting with changing those hats or wearing those padded hats?
Because so many pitchers had got their head hit by line drives.
The line drives off the head.
And those are scary plays,
And then the one
too.
guy in the Mets pitcher wore the hat, and everybody kind of made fun of him for
it. It did look a little ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it looks funny, but like when he gets hit in the head, at least he's not going to, possibly. I mean, I hate to say this, but you could possibly die on the baseball field getting hit in the head like that.
Those baseballs are not soft in any way, shape, or form.
And we're talking about these guys hitting the ball, like guys like Stanton and Judge. Their exit velocity is like 110 miles an hour, sometimes 115. Like, think about a ball coming off a bat that hard. You have no chance to react.
And even pitching, because if they didn't have that face guard, if Stanton got hit in the head with even a faster ball, that could have broken nose into the brain type stuff. Like, freak accidents happen. And then you look at Chapman, who throws it at 107 miles an hour, breaking a rib, puncturing a lung. That could easily happen too. There's people underestimate the risk you have playing baseball. I know that's a little ridiculous to say it like that, but you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. It's a scary thought. And then the scariest plays are obviously the line drives to the head of the pitchers. Remember that? I forget who team he was on, but he got hit in the head and then he stood up and just wasn't moving. He was kind of like still, and the catcher, he like leaned onto the catcher.
I don't remember that.
I'll try to see if I find it, but it was one of those scary, it was just a very disturbing image. And just always seeing a guy get hit in the head like that is a disturbing image.
So if you're a Yankees fan, do you want Machado?
Well, of course, but for our price.
But I mean, of course you want to see the best players play for team, but is that the move that you want to see your team make?
I think I would rather go for another pitcher, maybe add a closer more in the road. I know they have Chapman, but I don't know. Chapman can only go for so long throwing that hard. Mm-hmm. Ever since Chapman's been pitching, everyone's like, he's a great closer, but he's on borrowed time immediately because of how hard he's throwing, because his arm can't handle that forever.
Well, he is a reliever, though.
Yeah, but again, one bad pitch can just destroy his arm.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Baseball players, especially pitchers, just continue to get injured, too.
Rotator cuff, Tommy John surgery is one of the most common things in baseball.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, I don't know, man. I see the appeal for Machado. Like, he's a great player, but I just feel like he'd have fun playing with New York, playing in New York.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, who wouldn't?
But he could be.
Who wouldn't be loving to play for the Yankees? It's going to come down to what he
wants, right? Like, does he want to live in New York and be in the spotlight, or does he want to go to a city like Philadelphia?
Well, he kind of was that with Baltimore.
He was there with Baltimore, but I don't know if he loved it there. I'm not sure. But he went to L.A. It seemed like he really liked playing in L.A. Mm-hmm. New York's a lot like L.A.
But do you think it's about money more than where it is?
That's what we're going to find out. That is what we're going to find out, because I don't think the Yankees will give him the most money.
I think the Phillies will.
Yeah, I don't even know if the Yankees will give him second or third most money. We'll find out when it all, washes out. But
yeah.
But I think it's going to come down to, will he sacrifice a few guaranteed dollars to play in a bigger spotlight, maybe get more endorsements? Because playing for the Yankees has its advantages. He can make more money off the field.
Yeah.
Playing for New York rather than Philly.
Because of the market. I see what you're saying. I mean,
can't you just envision the advertisements of him in pinstripes with like chunky soup or something? You know what I mean?
Okay, Donovan McNabb.
You know what I mean, though?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's
that's how it is.
Well, it's totally what makes more sense. Putting a guy in a commercial with the Yankees jersey or putting him on with the Phillies jersey. Obviously, you're going to pick the Yankees.
One is a global brand.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. The Yankees jersey is a global brand. A Yankees hat is one of the most recognizable logos on the planet.
Everyone in Europe wears those things, for crying out loud.
I mean, I watch a lot of international sports, like international soccer. You know how many times I see a Yankees hat in the crowd, like a NY hat? Like, come on, all the time.
And they probably
fashionable.
And they even know the team. Oh, it's the Yankees. They might not even know what sport, but they know the team name. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you know what? They probably read a lot about it. They probably understand it a little more. But you know what? Speaking of reading, what would you like if we all listen more? Listening to audiobooks inspires us, motivates us, even brings us closer. And there's no better place to listen than Audible. Audible has the largest selection of audiobooks on the planet, and now Audible members get more than ever before. Each month they get 3 titles of their choice, 1 audiobook, 2 Audible originals, and fitness programs that they can't get anywhere else. There's never been a better time to experience Audible. Try it for free for 30 days by visiting audible.com/GSMCbook or by texting GSMC Book to 500-500. Remember, if you want to try it for free for 30 days, this great deal of Audible, go to audible.com/GSMC Book or texting the code GSMC Book to 500-500.
What happens to your decision-making when you drink? Well, after one drink, you feel confident. A few more, and calling your ex at 1 a.m. seems like a great idea. And you're pretty sure the secret to a great taco is 4-day-old macaroni. The bottom line, drunk you doesn't make great decisions. So you're risking a DUI or worse if you count on him to get you home. Plan before you party. Get home safe. Brought to you by
Welcome back, everyone, to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. We just talked about Machado visiting the Yankees. Now we're going to talk about Bryce Harper. Okay, let me ask you before we get into that. Who do you think is the bigger signing for a team? Would it be Bryce Harper or would it be Manny Machado?
If all things are equal, I would rather have Harper.
Yeah, but they both have some attitude concerns, do they not?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I just prefer Harper. If all things are equal, like if we're not talking about team need or anything like that, but
just based off talent alone.
I also think Harper could sell more merchandise if I'm an owner.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think Machado's a little more hated than Harper is.
They're both pretty divisive, though, right?
Yeah.
Like Harper, a lot of people hate Harper.
I only say hated because of his. I remember during the Brewers series, he kind of kicked the dude's leg, and who knows what could have happened there? Like, could have broken his leg. I know it was a light kick, but you never know in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
But with Harper, he is visiting the Philadelphia Phillies. As we said, they are the favorites to take him in free agency. The odds makers make him a plus 156 to the Phillies, plus 200 to the Dodgers, and the rest are 600 or above. The team with a team that was supposed to have a lot of good odds, the San Francisco Giants, only have plus 4,500 now. So my question,
yeah, they've dropped out.
Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate if you're a Giants fan. So
they've decided they want to pursue other players and go in a different direction. It makes sense. I get it. The Giants were just a team that was in the mix because they were looking for a star.
I think they just got to accept the fact they're in rebuilding mode.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to say that when a team won 3 World Series in 5 years, but sometimes you got to take it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, we're talking about Harper in the Phillies. Do you think that this is a foregone conclusion that he's going to the Phillies, or do you think there's another team in there that can slip in?
Oh, I think that it's open. I would say that Harper... I don't know. Do you think that Machado or Harper... who do you think signs first? I guess that's the question.
I'm thinking it's Machado. It sounds like Machado kind of knows what he wants already, it feels like. Doesn't it?
Yeah, and also I think more teams are in on Harper than Machado. I think just last I heard, like 12 or 13 teams met with Harper's people and Harper in Vegas, like at the winter meetings, which
that's a lot.
That's a lot. That's half the league. Like that's literally half the league. So I don't know if 10 teams are in on Machado. You know, I've heard like 4 or 5, maybe 6, but
yeah.
I think Machado signs first for sure.
Yeah,
I think Harper gets the biggest deal.
True.
It's crazy though how both these players are really young and hitting free agency like that. Like that usually doesn't happen. It's just pretty nuts.
It's like sometimes that happens, like NBA. That's happened on certain situations, and where multiple star players are available. So this is arguably one of the most looked at free agency. This is two of the biggest free agency pickups in the recent memory. I don't know the last time there were two of these biggest stars available in the free agents market. Do you?
Say it again.
The last time there was like this big of at least two big stars in baseball available in
I don't remember that happening. At least not commanding this type of money, right?
Yeah, well, money is going to get higher and higher. Well, I honestly think by the 2025 we'll see players at $500 million.
All right, I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
Over or under, okay?
Okay.
Machado and Harper combined contracts are over $650 million.
650.
$650 million. That would mean that maybe one gets 350, one gets 300, or 375. You can do the math, but over or under?
That's a tough one, actually.
I say over.
I think I have to say over as well.
I think I lowballed it. I was thinking in my head I should say 700, but
no. 650 is logical.
But I think it'll be somewhere between 650 and 700.
Yeah. Gosh, isn't that ridiculous?
It is absolutely ridiculous. It's a ton of money, but you know what? 162 games. You have 81 home games. It's a lot of tickets to sell.
It's also playing a game for a living.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's all relative. I mean, look at movie stars like George Clooney gets like 50, 60 million every time he's on screen, right? Like, that's crazy.
But some people complain about they get paid way too much. But I counter it with, if they have the money to pay them, why not pay them?
They don't get paid too much. You know why? Because they only get paid what people are willing to pay. They're only owners aren't losing money signing these players. They're only paying for these players because people like you and I are paying to watch these people play.
This is also very true.
They're making money hand over fist.
These teams have billions upon billions of dollars, and of course, $100 million is change to them.
Yeah.
So let alone $400 million is probably like what? $400 to us?
If you're the Phillies, you have a TV contract that's going to pay you a ton of money. You have advertisers that are going to pay you a ton of money. And then when you get a guy like Harper, that's going to cost you $300 to $400 million, but you're going to make so much money off of that deal because who doesn't want to sponsor a team with Bryce Harper? Insert company here. I'm going to start, and you can start charging more dollars when it comes to advertising at the ballpark and things like that. There's a lot in baseball. There's a lot of visibility when it comes to games. I mean, look, it's a long season. They play almost every single day. They play 162 times.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of chances to watch your favorite people play. Your favorite players.
And of course, like I said before, you pay that guy $400 million, you're going to make revenue still. Mm-hmm. You're making a lot of revenue. And that's just how the world works. That's how the world of sports works. And right now, Harper for the Phillies could benefit them so well right now. In the market, in the national market, as well as taking it to that next level into the playoffs. Obviously, I can see him as a wild card. But bottom line is, I don't think, like you said before, I don't think they're going past the Braves.
Yeah, I don't see it. I just like what the Braves are doing, and they had a great season this year, but I just think their trajectory is going up, right? I could see other teams faltering a little bit, but man, that team was young. That they were fun. They add a guy like Donaldson. If Donaldson can stay healthy, I think that could be another boost to that team. They might be able to get into 94, 95 wins.
Yeah. Maybe even 120. No, I'm kidding.
I kind of wish Harper was going to go to the Braves, to be honest with you. I think that'd be really fun. If they were in on Harper, that would be something. So you see Harper landing with Phillies?
Yeah. I think it's totally meant to be.
I feel like if he wanted to play there, though, he'd already have signed.
I think he's trying to get other teams to also add extra money. It's like making a girl jealous. I'm liking this girl, and then the other girl goes, well, I like you more, and then it's one of those things. Mm-hmm. You're trying to make the other teams jealous, so they're going to offer more. It's a bidding war. That's basically what it is. Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of having so much money is that they can offer it. Basically, we know Harper is going to be Scrooge McDuck, that jumps into the coin pool and swims in it.
Yes, I do.
That's
DuckTales, right?
Yeah, that's going to be Bryce Harper coming up soon, very soon.
And he's from Vegas, man. Imagine being getting that much money and your hometown is Las Vegas. So every time you go home, you're in Las Vegas.
I don't know. I don't think I would like living in Las Vegas.
Really?
No, to be honest.
No. Why is that?
Just seems like I like some peace and quiet when I go to sleep. I feel like I couldn't get any sleep in Las Vegas.
You can live in the outskirts of Las Vegas, though, like Conor McGregor does.
I don't want to live in the desert.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It's hot, but...
I lived in the desert. I went to Arizona for college.
Yeah? And you didn't like it?
Well, I enjoyed the 4 years I was there, don't get me wrong.
What about the winter? It's way better than being cold.
Yeah, it's not... Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I can't imagine myself living in Las Vegas.
Viva Las Vegas, man.
I think you can imagine yourself living in Las Vegas.
I mean, would it get old? Yeah, probably at some point, but if you had a lot of money like that, you don't have to always be in the middle of it, but it is, I guess, cool, to just, get a ride into town, and you're in Vegas with all the casinos, all the lights. It's fun. Yeah. And I imagine if it's fun for me, somebody who has a humble bank account, I imagine having, 10 zeros in my bank account behind a number would be even more fun.
Yeah, there was even some talk of him getting up to $450 million, which I was like, that might be too much. But
Somebody might do it.
The Phillies might. I mean, they have the cap.
If you're willing to do 400 and some team's saying I'm going to do 430, wouldn't you just be like, screw it, I'm doing 450?
I'll just say five. How about just say 500 just to not risk anything else?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't know. What do you think? Do you think he's going to the Phillies, or do you think?
I think he's going to the Phillies.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me ask you this: if he doesn't go to the Phillies, where do you think his next destination would be?
God, that's a good question. Heck, why wouldn't the Yankees just try and sign him if they don't sign Machado, right?
Okay, now their luxury tax is in the 100 millions, dude. That luxury tax would be too much. That's too much.
I'm just saying, if they're in on Machado and they miss on him, it might be something where they're like, oh my god, we gotta add.
But what if they offer Machado and Harper something, they both say yes? They're like, oh well, we're screwed now. Not screwed when it comes to the team. The team would be great, but their luxury tax would be just too much. That's too much. I'm sorry. No team can afford that luxury tax. That I can't imagine how much that would be.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's a luxury tax for a reason, and this is why.
I think if Harper doesn't go to the Phillies, he will go to the St. Louis Cardinals.
I almost thought you were about to say Rams for a second for some reason. I forgot there's still his team in St. Louis.
The St. Louis Cardinals.
They don't really have a lot of people, true.
They just got Goldschmidt. I could see it happening.
Yeah, they're kind of. It feels like they're in a win now phase.
Yeah, Goldschmidt's a rental because he has 1 year, so they could splurge on Harper and then have Harper and Goldschmidt for a year, and then maybe let Goldschmidt walk. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, why would they make? No, that's no.
No what?
Goldschmidt walking? I don't see that happening.
Well, I mean, he's in his last year of his contract. The Cardinals have to re-sign him or let him go, and a lot of people don't think they're going to be able to re-sign him.
I don't know.
Maybe he's going to be paid a lot too, even though he's older than these guys. But he's going to be a big free agent commodity.
I didn't think of this, and I know this is probably not going to happen. Maybe Derek Jeter comes out of nowhere and signs him to the Marlins.
Out of nowhere?
Just out of nowhere.
Every time I hear out of nowhere, I just think of wrestling.
RKO out of nowhere? Oh, absolutely.
Out of nowhere.
It's entertaining as hell. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
The commentators.
Hey, don't hate on some of the commentators. Yeah, some of those commentators are great.
Oh, my God.
Oh, that's Joey Styles. I know too much about wrestling.
I don't know the commentators' names.
No wonder I don't have a girlfriend. I watch
Wait,
too
what's
much
the main
sports.
commentator, though?
Jim Ross is what you're thinking
Jim
of?
Ross, yeah.
He doesn't commentate anymore, unfortunately, because he's retired. He's not with the WWE anymore. It's Michael Cole. That's like the head guy now, but he does a fine job.
Jim Ross doesn't every once in a while go in and do it, though?
He does it with different companies. He does it for a company in Japan mostly.
Oh, okay.
And he did actually lose his wife last year, so that's
man.
very unfortunate.
That's terrible. That is absolutely terrible. All right, we should go to break, but before we do that, I want to talk to you a little bit about audiobooks. You know, a lot of us don't have time to sit down and read books, but we can always listen to them driving to work, going to the gym. It's always nice to just hit play, listening to those great audio books. There's no better place to do that than with Audible. Get your first audiobook free, along with 2 selected Audible original titles and exclusive fitness programs when you start a 30-day trial. So take the time to listen on Audible. Visit audible.com/GSMCbook or text GSMCbook to 500-500 to get started. Again, for fans of this show, go to audible.com/GSMCbook or text GSMCbook to 500-500 to get started today.
What happens to your decision-making when you drink? Well, after one drink, you feel confident. A few more, and calling your ex at 1 a.m. seems like a great idea. And you're pretty sure the secret to a great taco is 4-day-old macaroni. The bottom line, drunk you doesn't make great decisions. So you're risking a DUI or worse if you count on him to get you home. Plan before you party. Get home safe. Brought to you by Washington Tire.
Welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. We talked about Machado. We talked about Harper. Now let's talk about something that no one expected. Well, everyone except for the Mets general manager, because he says we are the favorites in the NL East. The Mets.
Oh, he did, huh?
Coming off a 70-92 season.
Mm-hmm.
He's expecting a dramatic turnaround and to win the NL East. And again, who's in the NL East?
The Braves are in there.
Exactly my point. What is this dude on?
He's enjoying life. I don't know. He says they're the team to beat. Why? Because they got Robinson Cano and Diaz and who else?
Those guys are old, though.
Did they make another move?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, did they
Well,
make...
they were looking to trade Thor, excuse me.
Syndergaard?
He's Thor, I thought.
Yeah, Thor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I don't know. I just think that he's just trying to bring in hype.
They got Wilson Ramos, too, on a 2-year deal.
Is that
He's pretty good.
Yeah, but is this makes them favorites for the East?
I don't know. What's his name? Cespedes. He's out for a while, right? He had surgery on his heel, both of his heels, I believe.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I know that a lot of people are high on the Mets, though. In fact,
I still wouldn't say favorites for the East.
In fact, according to the latest projections at Fangraphs, the Mets are an 85-77 team, which would put them at second place.
That's still not the best.
But Fangraphs has the Braves at third place. Has the Nationals at first. Believe it or not.
The Nationals at first.
Maybe because the Nationals signed Patrick Corbin.
Even with the loss of Harper.
Maybe.
Fascinating. Rebooting. Shutting down.
I don't know what that is from, but you like to use that.
It's a joke. It's like a robot.
No, I get it. But is that from something?
It's just
Is that from Friends?
it's from a YouTube channel, but I'm not going to say what it's from because I'll be embarrassed. It's from Game Grumps, okay? Happy now?
Mm-hmm.
You don't even know what that is, do you?
Game what?
Game Grumps?
Game Grumps.
Game Grumps.
Like grumpy.
That's the stick. They're
grumpy guys.
But they are entertaining and funny, and one of them is Jewish, just like me. So
that's cool.
Yeah, go Jews.
Oh my God, is this happening?
Yes, this is what I can't.
Are we tying this into the Mets somehow?
Yes. No, because the Mets are bad.
You wanted to talk about the Mets? Let's talk about them.
Well, I'm just saying, do you think they have a shot to win the NL East?
I say 20%.
20%. And yet this guy, their GM is saying...
I'm waiting on the Phillies right now. Because if the Phillies go get those two players, I think the Mets are behind them, and I think the Mets might be fourth.
So if Machado or Harper...
If they get both of them, I would say Phillies are 2.
The Phillies are only 2.
I would still say I still like the Braves. I know.
Even with both.
Maybe last year was a fluke. I have no idea, but
I don't think last year was a fluke either. I think they have a lot of potential with this team.
They're young. I do. I like their potential.
I just think maybe just with that much power at the bat and still so much potential at the pitching rotation that the Phillies have, and their defense is not very bad either, this team can win the division as well. It'll be very close between the Phillies and the Braves for sure.
I will say that the NL East, I feel like, is the most wide open division right now.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that. With as much as I do like the Braves and trust that they'll continue to play good baseball and move forward, I wouldn't be surprised if they're the team of all the playoff teams in the National League this year that took a step back. Because I don't think the Brewers are going to take a step back. I don't think the Dodgers are going to take a step back.
So you don't think the Brewers was a fluke?
No, I don't.
Do you think they'll be back in the NLCS?
I just like they're a very balanced team to me. Like I feel like guys like Lorenzo Cain and Christian Yelich are like really good players to have around, like to be in the lineup. Christian Yelich, man, one of the best players in Major League Baseball. I think we agree on that. And the way that the Brewers pitch, they don't really rely on one person, one pitcher.
Yeah, true.
I like their approach. They're innovative. They're interesting. And I think it's like an all hands on deck kind of atmosphere for them. So,
yeah.
But the Braves, I could see slumping because like they got a lot of young players. So yeah, they had really good young seasons, but maybe they have like a sophomore slump type year, right?
Yeah,
like Acuna, Albies, like those guys, you could see like maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're not going to be great players, but you could see like maybe they get off to a tough start, or I don't know. The Braves also don't have the best pitching in the world either. I don't know if. What happens? You could see Donaldson not being a factor. Donaldson is their prized possession so far in free agency. What if he gets hurt? What if he misses 80 games? Like, then he doesn't matter, right? Like,
suspended for 80 games, like so many others have.
Well, I mean, you know what I mean, right? Like Donaldson's a wild card. I think Donaldson could be somebody who is arguably an MVP candidate next year, or he could be somebody who's absolutely worthless. Like, he is such a wild card type of player.
Yeah, absolutely. And like all the teams that win in the playoffs, like they can make it again. It's not like there was like, oh, no way that team's making it back. There were so many
of the AL East team or the AL playoff teams. Who doesn't make it back? If you had to guess,
of the teams that made the playoffs in the AL or just in general.
So I think in the NL, the Braves are the team that's most likely not to be back. Would you agree with that, or would you say another team? And you can use the Cubs too, because we could talk all five.
I honestly would say Cubs.
Yeah, I would probably.
You're gonna keep with the Braves.
I'm gonna keep with the Braves because the Cubs have the ability to make some bigger moves. Like I wouldn't be surprised if the Cubs came out of nowhere and signed Harper. You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying they will, but there is that possibility because they do have deep pockets. They do have an already really good lineup. Chris Bryant. Rizzo. I mean, those are really good players. So their pitching's not half bad either.
Well, let me read off each team, and then we can go from there. How about that?
Well, but you're talking about National League playoffs?
Just everyone in the playoffs, and we say if they come back. So we had the Oakland A's.
I would say that they're the least likely team in the American League.
Yes. There's also Houston and Cleveland.
I think both have really good shots coming back, especially Houston. I think you could pencil Houston in for the next 2 or 3 years.
I would say the same for Cleveland.
I could see it happening. I just feel slightly more confident in Houston.
Yes, Houston's the younger team. I'll give you that. That's true. But I think we can both agree Boston and New York are making it.
I think Boston would be the most
surprising.
If Boston didn't make the playoffs, that would be the most shocking team of all the teams. And not just because they won. They won, but
108 wins.
Sometimes you can win the World Series, but everybody can see that you're not the favorite for the next year. They're the favorite for next year.
This team is young. This team is good. This team may be good for the next 10 years, honestly. Now let's go to the National League. Colorado Rockies.
I like their chances next year. The problem is that I don't think
they're in a very tough division.
It's hard to feel confident about a team that you don't feel
even with the loss of Goldschmidt, you can still say the Diamondbacks also have an opportunity.
No,
really, without Goldschmidt,
they lost Corbin though. That's a bigger loss.
That's right. They did lose Corbin in the Nationals.
That's a bigger loss.
That was they still have.
They're all of a sudden in on the Harper discussion. By the way.
I don't think they're going to get him, though.
That's an interesting team, though, because he's from Vegas. He could play in Arizona. That's a hitter's park. They all of a sudden become like, I could see that working. But then again, you kind of get lost when you're in Arizona.
Well, wouldn't you say the same thing with all NL West teams?
Oh, I agree. I wouldn't even be surprised if the Dodgers made a pitch to him. Absolutely.
Oh, the Dodgers are definitely making a pitch to him. Why wouldn't you? What's the harm?
There isn't any.
And I said Chicago was the least likely, in my opinion, to not make the World Series. Or not World Series, excuse me, the playoffs. And then there is Milwaukee, which is still a very young team, and they'll be back. Even if they don't make it next year, they'll be back the next year after that.
I would say in the National League, the two teams that are most likely to not be back at this moment in time are the Braves and the Cubs.
The Braves did lose in 4 games. No, 4 games.
Let's go to
5 games.
Let's go to the American League now. So it was the Astros, Red Sox, Yankees, Indians, A's.
Oakland,
A's for sure, because we've seen this story before where the A's have a really good season and then next year they're just 75 wins. We see them go. Well, every 3 or 4 years they're in the playoffs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
We see it all the time. They rebuild their farm system, then they have a good year, then they sell players, they do it again, rinse, repeat. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting. What do you think? We take a break though.
Yeah, of course. When we get back, we will talk about any of the news, corps, tips, and tricks about the net baseball as we get back to you right after this.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Welcome to the final segment of the GSMC Baseball Podcast. Cast. Like that? Cast.
Nope.
Cast. Anyways, we talked about Machado. We talked about Harper. We talked about the playoff teams and who would make it next year, and as well as the Mets and saying they're favorites for the NL East. Now, let's go on to, let's go to the Twins, actually, because Joe Mauer has retired. But next season, they announced they will retire his number 7 jersey. And do you think it's always too soon to do it right after the person retires? Or do you think it's it's always like this guy was such a huge part of the team that it was the right move?
I think it's fine.
Do you think it's fine?
Joe Mauer is like Mr. Twin to me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He embodies that franchise.
Mr. Twin. It sounds like it's like Joe Mauer actually has a twin, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you think that's the weirdest name for a team in sports, the Twins?
The Twin Cities.
Are they actually called the Twin Cities?
Yeah. Isn't that why they got the TC hats? Twin Cities. But I don't know, man. He's been a legend for them, right? Like, and that's one of those things where the team decides that they're gonna retire the number. And for me, he's a legendary player. Mm-hmm. I don't think they need to wait.
I don't think they need to wait either.
What do you think? Yeah, I was gonna say
he's probably the most popular player from the Twins in quite some time. Like, of course, David Ortiz was on that team, but he's not as remembered as a Twin. He's remembered as a Red Sox. Mauer will always be one of the most famous Twins in history. I don't think there's any question about that. And when you make that kind of reputation for the team, where you're the face of the franchise for so many years, it's like Kobe Bryant. I know that's an unfair comparison based on talent, but I'm saying just like it's like he was such a huge part of the team that you gotta do it almost right away.
Yes.
It's a shame he never won a World Series because he was always playing at a high level, but the rest of his team was just crumbling.
So moving on to sad news, actress and former movie director Penny Marshall passed away.
That's right.
And she
directed A League of Their Own, the women's baseball movie, which I actually really liked.
One of the best movies, man. I love that movie.
There's no crying in baseball. Tom Hanks is okay. Let's just say
the drunk manager.
Tom Hanks is so freaking good at acting.
What's the main actress's name? The catcher.
She's still doing stuff today. What is her name? She's actually very popular.
That movie was made in 1992.
Wow, that felt like
Gina Davis. That's who.
That's right, Gina Davis. That movie felt so ahead of its time, didn't it?
And then Madonna.
Madonna was in it.
Mm-hmm. She was in it. Lori Petty was Kit.
I forgot there were that was an all-star cast.
Yeah, Gina Davis was Dottie, and then Lori Petty was Kit. Rosie O'Donnell was in the movie. You remember that?
Oh, that's right. She was in it. That's correct.
John Lovitz was in it.
Oh, my gosh. There was some all-star cast, wasn't there?
That was a great movie, man. And, so we bring it up because, of course, Penny Marshall passes away. So rest in peace to her and thoughts to her and her family.
She was 75. She lived almost a full life. Like, I know that's people say that would be young, but in this day and age, it's something you got to live with.
It's cool though that she kind of had her hand in baseball somewhat, right? Like A League of Their Own is a classic movie. It's a classic. It's like everybody's got to see it.
It's not just a classic. It's also one of those things in where it's so instrumental in like women's rights and all that, and like we're women respected as much as men in the world of sports type of thing, you know. And that's I think that's just a huge it's a huge factor when it comes to sports, and it's an underrated movie in my opinion.
Yes, that's basically all we got today. Join us next week as we discuss. Hopefully, we'll have a signing between Harper and Machado. I think that would be fun.
We have to, right? It's got to happen.
Come on,
sooner
MLB
or later.
teams. Somebody just pony up and give these guys what they want.
For the love of God, we're waiting too darn long.
Baseball offseason can be a little bit mundane at times, right? So
yeah,
maybe we'll see some action. All right, join us next time.
Thank you so much, everyone, and have a good day.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.